So I've just watched the Sony PlayStation State of Play event for Gran Turismo 7, and I wanted to share some of my thoughts on it. So first of all, I'm just going to give a quick overview of what I picked up on it and talk about some of the points, and then I'll try and summarise them at the end, hopefully. So it's a half-hour presentation. I'm not going to play the entire video. You can go and pick that up and watch that yourself. I'm going to pick up various points and critique it as I go through. First of all, couple of points that I found interesting on the car section that came up, and I'm going to start there. So used cars are back. Will contain a mixture of cheaper cars, but I'm not quite sure how this will work, more expensive cars than they normally were, and reference GDM classics from the 90s. Brand Central will feature 50 brands within it, but there'll also be a legendary car sales point dealer which will deal with iconic cars and classics and important cars throughout history, DB5, things like that. The Brand Central itself will contain the museums and be very similar to GTS in that regard. And a couple of brands I did spot in there. We've got Porsche and RUF. Now, these have not always been brands that have liked being in titles together, so it is good to see both of those. And I did also spot Radical in there, which makes me very, very, very happy. Hopefully we have a good selection from Radical in there. Then looking at tracks, confirmed 34 locations, 90 layouts, with Trial Mountain, Deep Forest and High Speed Ring returning in either original or played around with forms from past GT titles. But in all honesty, from looking at the screens that we saw during the presentation, there was not a huge amount of new stuff in there. So for example, the UK still just has Brands Hatch and Goodwood, and that's it. So we're still missing a lot of tracks in there, which is a bit disappointing, but there we go. Then I want to spend a bit of time talking about the single player, because there was a great amount made about how this was going to be the return to GT's single player days of old and things like that. But what seemed to be quite lacking on the menu screen, the world map, was any option to do that with events linked to tracks. So you could select a track and there would be events that popped up there. Now, this is speculation on my part, but I think the single player has been replaced by what's being called the GT Cafe, where you basically have to compete in races and I believe they said championships to unlock cars, and I get a feeling that's going to replace the single player or be the single player. One of the things that was mentioned, I can't remember that it was in the video or I picked it up from the talk around the actual press event, and that is there will be over 100 race events available to us at launch. That may grow post-launch, I don't know, but there we go. So yeah, I've got a feeling that what we traditionally know as a Gran Turismo single player career is going to be very changed in this one. But there we go. One thing about the GT Cafe that was mentioned is the fact that there will be creators of certain cars talking about the cars and the history behind them. So it does seem to be leaning heavily on that history of automotive, everything to do with it, design, the world, etc. One thing that did get a decent amount of time and looks to be very much in depth, once again, is car customization. If I check my notes on that, approximately 16 tuning parts per car. And that's around the performance tuning side of it. GT Auto, what was it? A load of stuff, 150 wheels, 650 parts, loads of paints, roll cages, wide body stuff, loads of things like that. And related to that, the livery editor, you can now slap more stickers on there, and you can also put livery stickers on windows, which will be a nice one for that. Oh, and one thing that has been confirmed, and thanks to GT Planet, they confirmed this at the press event, is that we will be able to import liveries and decals over from GT Sport, which is great news. Oh, and we've got chassis rigidity repair, engine overhaul, oil change and car wash back in GT Auto as well. Scapes, 2,500 locations, and the scape shots do look stunning. Photo mode as before. One thing I do want to talk about is the time and weather. It will be region specific. It has been confirmed that time progression across, there will be limited time progression for all tracks, but only a few tracks, namely ones where they actually hold 24-hour races, will have full 24-hour time cycles. So that's a bit disappointing. And not all tracks will have weather progression or rain on them. The ones that do will have variable rain, puddles will form and will dry, but this doesn't look to be as in-depth as the kind of systems that we've seen in Project Cars and in Automobilista, where you do have some random seeding going on, and it looks a bit more scripted than that, I have to be honest. There is a weather map which looks nice, and there is talk in there, and they did confirm that larger tracks like the Nürburgring, it could be raining in one part of the track and dry in another. So that's nice, but we'll see what comes off the back of it. Then moving over to really the bits that interest me. Physics, lots of big claims, but I'm not really seeing it, I've got to be perfectly honest. And specific mention was made of wheels vibrating when cars are understeering. And I'm sorry, this is a bugbear of mine. If you've watched the channel long enough, you will know that cars do not vibrate through the wheels when you are understeering. It simply doesn't happen. Anybody who's driven a car on the limit and hit understeer, heavy understeer, the wheel goes light. Yes, if you're really into terminal understeer and you start getting some tyre skip across the ground, you'll get it. But you've gone way beyond understeering there. That's quite frustrating. So there's big claims about aero via CFD. But the main thing that they banged on about was the haptics around the controller, which will be interesting to try, being perfectly honest. Absolutely nothing mentioned about AI, and that's disappointing, and it looks to be fairly typical Gran Turismo AI. And replays looked good. We're getting ray tracing in those as well as in Scapes. The music replays, that looks like there's an improved version of that back from the GT3, I think. Might be GT4 was the last one to include that, but I think it was GT3. And then there's this really weird new thing called Music Rally, where you have to drive along to a song matching your speed to the BPM of the track, I think, and that will award you more points so you can go further, and the aim is to go as far as you can. Looks really odd, quite frankly. So yeah, we'll see about that. So things we still don't know about, as I've mentioned already. AI, we have absolutely no idea what the AI looks like. We don't really have an idea of what the single player side of things looks like properly. We don't know whether the races will still be the old school chase the rabbit type nonsense, and I seriously hope they're not at all. We don't know a great deal about the weather and how limited that will be, so that will be interesting, and exactly how much of an effect it has on the physics. They say it's baked into the physics engine, but I'm not going to hold my breath on that. We don't know what it's going to look like on a PS4 or a PS4 Pro. So overall, it's interesting, and there's a lot about it that's good. I mean, I've got it pre-ordered purely because it looks bloody stunning, and it'll be interesting to create content for, but there's still a lot of unknowns about it. I think the main one, though, is it's put rumours of a delay to bed, because it confirmed it is coming out on March the 4th, so not long to wait. So those are my thoughts on the GT7 State of of Play event. If you've enjoyed this video, please do hit the like button, and if you want to see more content like this, please do subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon. Thanks very much. Take care. Bye.